Hi, I'm still here at LBI with Chris Clarke, and we're talking creative careers. And we've spoken on, just briefly about how you get started in your career. But let's bring things up to date, talk about where you're at in your career and how perhaps someone with similar aspirations might reach that stage too. So, tell us a bit about your role currently at LBI and where you're at in your career, Chris.
My role as Chief Creative Officer means, I suppose, inspiring and leading the other creative leaders around our network. You know, we're now over 5,000 people around the world with the merger with Digitas. So, you know, the way that works is working with individual ECDs in each office, helping them to figure out what the right creative culture is for them, finding the right talent. And setting the tone, I suppose, for what we want to stand for creatively. You know, alongside that, I suppose my job sometimes is the sort of the last resort if we're failing to crack an idea for a pitch, or a client's getting concerned that we haven't quite cracked it. Then sometimes that problem lands on my desk, and I have to prove that I can still do it, which is always really bloody terrifying every time that I have to pull that one off. But so far, so good. Yeah, I suppose that's really the sort of two sides of the role, really.
Okay, great. And in thinking about your career progression, 15 years. 15 years is quite quick. I'd have thought, to get to the level that you've got to. Is that something you've strived for, or has it just all been through recognition for your work?
I think it's probably, you know, they say if you can't be good, be lucky, right? But I don't know. It must be a combination of circumstances and drive. I mean, I've never been afraid to make decisions, and I've never been afraid to assume the position of of leadership in a room or in a situation. So that stood me in pretty good stead from early on in my career. I was an exec creative director at 27, so I shot through the ranks quite quickly. Part of that as well, though, of course, was that digital was really new back then. I had core skill sets as a writer, and I brought a people-centric storytelling approach to digital, which at that time was quite design-led and quite technical. And so I think that helped me to be successful. And, you know, when you've got a new industry, there isn't anybody above you, really.
Right time, right place.
Yeah, so, you know, so in that sense, I was quite, you know, comfortable to push forward. As the industry's matured, I think there are a few of us from that period who've managed to sort of move with it. So, you know, I feel sort of fortunate to have been at the vanguard of something new, I suppose, at that time.
And what has been your motivations to reach the level you have?
I mean, I never really sort of come to work. I've never come to work thinking, you know, I want to be the boss. But I was never afraid to, you know, create some sort of sense of leadership and sense of where we're going. And that meant, I suppose, a couple of unlucky people got pushed out of the way early on in my career. The main thing really for me at the beginning was about changing an industry. You know, I think all of us in digital at the time felt that, you know, advertising was something that needed to be disrupted. And we felt that digital technology and, you know, the breakdown of traditional mass media hierarchies was a really exciting opportunity to do that. And so I was motivated by disruption. And I think I probably still am. I think the idea of, you know, breaking old things and replacing them with new things makes sense to me, and I think is interesting. Over the years, that's got more complicated, and I think the impact and implications of some of that digital disruption are just being felt, and not all of it's positive. So we now have to sort of understand, you know, really what is, you know, where is digital technology taking us? What does that really mean? You know, there's a guy called Jaron Lanier who's just written a book called Who Owns the Future, talking about how now these sort of the big digital business models are taking more jobs out of industries than they're replacing them with. You know, we're reaching a situation where perhaps we've got a winner-takes-all economy, where it's a dominant algorithm in each industry that will effectively do the jobs of, you know, hundreds of thousands of people. So, you know, what does digital technology do next to fill that gap? How do we create business models that create wealth for lots of people? I think there are some really, really big questions that go outside of advertising that I find quite motivating at the moment. And I think they're questions that we have to help our clients to answer, so that their industries grow and flourish and people have got jobs. You know, we can't all, you know, it's all very well to have free social networking and free search, but in the end, if the net result of that is that none of us have a job, then we're in trouble. So I think we're reaching a very interesting and slightly potentially terrifying time, actually, where the implications of what we've all achieved in digital technology over the last few years are starting to be felt, and we need to find some new ideas.
Vision.
Yeah.
I can really, in everything you're saying, that you're talking from the heart. There's a vision there for you. I mean, I asked what the motivations were for you to reach this level, and there's a clear vision in everything that you've just said. That if people who you've worked with have seen that, and I've read your LinkedIn profile and different things people have said about you, and that's one thing that comes through in all of that. So I hear that's the advice that you're giving.
I'm glad it makes sense.
And we interviewed Sir John Hegarty actually on this couch, and he said creative people should take care when getting promotions, or they might find themselves doing a job or they might find themselves not doing the job they loved.
Yeah, I think as ever, he makes a good point. I think that it can be difficult actually as you come through the system. You get promoted for being a good creative, and then you're asked to be a good manager. I mean, as I said earlier, I was made creative director at 27. I won't say I was a good one. Yeah. I was still very driven by the work that I was doing, and I was pretty bad at managing people. I remember actually saying to Ewan Sturgeon, who's one of our two CEOs here at LBI, early on when I was having a staffing problem, I said, "You mean I have to care about their fucking bunny rabbits?" And he was like, "Yeah, you do." And I was like, "Oh." So I realised that I had to manage people in the round and think about their, how their work affects them more generally. And that's pretty easy to do because I'm quite an empathetic person. But I really thought at the beginning it's all about the work. Actually, it isn't. It's about how the work fits into how a person sees themselves and where they're going. And that's you build teams through that kind of empathy. And so that was a lesson I had to learn pretty early on. I think with my job now, I probably do a bit more hands-on creative work and a bit less managing than I did when I was an exec creative director of an office. Because actually, even though it's a big global operation, I have fewer direct reports now than I have had in the last 5 or 6 years. So I'm able to work with specific teams on a particular account and get involved much more with what I love. I also love building businesses as well, and so with LBI we've been on a journey to build something, to create something out of what effectively was a very messy set of mergers. It had no coherence, there was no idea behind it, it was just lots of people thrown together. And as a leadership team here, we've all worked together to create something, so that has been a huge motivator, is actually making something coherent there. So building a brand as well as obviously building brands for our clients.
Again, I can really hear your motivations coming through there. And then, so just finally, a question, I'm going to put you on the spot a bit. If you were hiring someone to replace yourself, and this could be good advice for someone looking to reach these higher positions, if you were hiring someone to replace yourself, what would they need to do to get noticed, and why would they stand out to you?
Well, I think that hopefully I'll answer this perhaps indirectly, but I think the two things that I think are really important in this job, or if you want to progress in this industry, one is always go to work without being afraid of being fired. Always set out to get fired. I've always been slightly embarrassed that I've never been fired, and I was talking to Matt Wells of Congregation Partners recently, who's the only person who've ever put me in another job, because I was at LBI, then I went into Digital House and Publishers for a bit, came back here, and he's amazed that I've never been fired as well. So I've always tried to live by that, but I've never quite managed to pull it off yet. There's time yet. So never be afraid to be fired, and always take that contrarian position and challenge the dominant thinking in a company, and that's what keeps you fresh and keeps a company fresh. And then also never ever be afraid to hire somebody who's better than you. I've got a lot of really great ECDs around the network who have got a lot of skills that I don't have, and I think that's really important. So you've got to build a really good team around you who can challenge you, and live without fear of that. I think is really important. What I will say is I do think, and I was saying this to one of our ECDs the other day, I think it's a shame that I don't look out at the network and see loads and loads and loads of potential future leaders. I think it comes back to this problem that the education system's not creating leaders or disruptive thinkers. It's creating people who know how to fit into a system. I think that people, I don't think there are enough people out there who have that sense of fearlessness that's required. I think that's the most important thing, to really sort of have an idea of, a conviction of who you want to be and what kind of company you want to be in. It may take a while to find the right circumstances for that vision to flourish, but when you do, then you can really take people somewhere, because people want to have a direction set, and they want to have something to believe in.
That's great, Chris. Thanks so much for sharing your experiences of your career and insights for people to follow those steps that you've taken. Cheers, Chris.
Pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like it and share it with others. Source interview people from London's creative industry so you can learn from their experiences. To see more of our videos, subscribe to the channel now. And if there's someone you'd like to see interviewed, even yourself, then tweet us, put it in the comments, or get in touch via email. Thanks again.